Arizona. We're gonna legalize it.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Safer Dave Show at SaferArizona.com, Arizona's cannabis legalization activist webcasting network. I'm your host, Dave Wisniewski. This segment of the Safer Dave Show is sponsored in part by Hemp Farms Cafe and Shop, your one-stop shop for all things hemp in Arizona. You can get hemp-infused breakfast, lunches, juices, and smoothies. Remember, Hemp Farms Cafe is not a dispensary and is legal for everyone. Check it out. It's 14620 North Cave Creek Road. You can find more information about Hemp Farms at hempfarms.com. This morning, I want to introduce my guest. We're going to talk in a little bit. This is Christian Corrasco from Hemp Our World, howarizona.org. Thank you for coming on the show.
Dave, thank you. It's a pleasure, Dave. Thank you so much.
And before we get into our discussion today, I got a couple of announcements that I kind of want to go over. We are going to be doing a couple of protests, protesting some awful things going on in Arizona. First, October 9th at 9 a.m., we are protesting DCS, the Department of Child Safety, for kidnapping the children of medical marijuana patients. When patients use medical marijuana when they're pregnant, or if they're just using medical marijuana, the DCS is coming in with cops, confiscating children at birth. We know that using medical marijuana is not neglect, but they view it as neglect, and they are kidnapping the children of medical marijuana patients. Cannot stand for this. We are protesting. It will be 9 a.m. October 9th at 5038 South Price Road, Tempe, Arizona. Next, we are protesting Sheriff Joe Arpaio's newly launched Operation No Drug Bust Too Small. He's going out there targeting very small sales of marijuana, among other drugs, but marijuana is the most commonly used drug, so we know he's going to get a lot more of those. And that's a class 4 felony. He's going after people, just patients trying to, heal themselves, heal their bodies, and he's attacking them hardcore. And so we are protesting this new operation. It is going to be October 16th at the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, 13063 West Bell Road, Surprise, Arizona. Also coming up, we have the Safer Arizona Signature Drive Tour, October 5th through December 14th. I'll be going around to various locations in the Phoenix metropolitan area, collecting signatures for cannabis legalization with a booth. I'm going to be out there with some music. It's going to be great. So check that out at SaferArizona.com. And lastly, if you want to get involved in the Arizona cannabis legalization movement, you can plug yourself right in by joining our Facebook group. Go to facebook.com/groups/SaferArizona community. Well, that was a mouthful. Maybe next time I can slow down a little bit. But I'm here with Mr. Christian Corrasco, and he is with HempOurWorld.org. Now, could you tell us a little bit about the history of Hemp Our World and what you guys are trying to accomplish?
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, definitely. Well, we started off in 2013 as a nonprofit organization, Hemp Our World, and the basis of the organization, the focus is to bring a unionized effort all over the world for industrial hemp farming. We think that at some point, once the infrastructure is built and we are able to bring legalization to the United States and to our country, at that point, we could start unionizing hemp farming. Right now, what we're doing here in the state of Arizona, our efforts are to bring a creation of a program in the State Department of Agriculture that would administer a hemp program and also administer grants for institutions of higher education to do research on breeds that would, be the best suitable for Arizona application.
That sounds really cool. How are you going about this?
Well, what we did was we submitted the initiative, and a lot of people they know about the initiative. Not so many people know about the initiative, so we're really trying to educate it. But as of July 21st, the initiative was submitted, was resubmitted through the Secretary of State, and it's I-15-2016 is a serial number. And you can you're able to go to the Secretary of State, or you can go to our website at howarizona.org to look at the initiative language, and as well as what we need to do as far as getting the required signatures for the ballot. So right now, what we're really trying to focus on is get the campaign rolling with contributions. So I know everybody that wants to get cannabis legalization, they know that at some point, in order for us to do that, to make it happen, it requires a lot of funding to make that happen. So right now, we're in the real beginning stage of collecting the contributions so we can build our campaign, so we can get the right promoting, the right advertisement, and also pay for circulators to be out there collecting signatures.
Well, I got a question for you, because right now there's also another two initiatives out there. There's the Marijuana Policy Project initiative and the Arizonans for Mindful Regulation initiative. Both of those have hemp areas in it where they legalize hemp. Now, let's say we get all three of these on the ballot and they all get voted in. How would yours, the Hemp Our World initiative passing along with AZFMR passing, how would that affect hemp?
Well, it's a great question, Dave. I mean, the question is, if you look at the bills very thoroughly, and we really recommend that everybody who is signing these initiatives and getting involved to really look at the initiatives and look at the differences of what's what it requires and what it upholds on the initiatives. Our initiative is solely based for industrial hemp, and we want to create a program through the agriculture department. I'm not sure, I haven't really looked at the AZFMR initiative very well. I'm not sure if there's a structure on how they're going to regulate it.
It's not regulated. Pretty much it's legalized, and it's up to our legislators down the road to regulate it if they want, but it legalizes it in basically one sentence. It has no real structure outline. It's kind of like, in my opinion, a hemp free-for-all, if you would.
Absolutely. And, that's also what I saw on the MPP bill, was that it said anyone would be allowed to grow, process, cultivate industrial hemp. But at the top, there's a section where it says if our legislators wanted to get involved and they wanted to create a program or create some kind of regulation, they could do so. And what I think about that is I just think it's some way for us to be stalling in the process of creating a program. The program that we are asking for is very similar to it's pretty much exactly the same to what Colorado has done. And for the last 2 years, this is the second season they've been growing in Colorado, and they have over 150 farms. We're talking about...
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, over 150 farms. Go on Facebook, look at sites like Grow Hemp Colorado, or just research on what's going on in Colorado, and it's amazing. They're actually making a difference with the program they have, and it's run through the State Department of Agriculture. They're not asking for any legislators to regulate it, but actually the State Department of Agriculture. So the differences would be that we would actually have a program that's already set through the state. And this program, like I said, it allocates funds to institutions of higher education. And I think at this point, if we're able to get grants that are $1 million to ASU, U of A, those schools can start doing research, kind of like what Colorado State University is doing. And not only are they making a difference with the research that they're doing, but they're also having fun at the same time. So
this does sound amazing, and you obviously doing a lot of great work in the hemp reform. And there's a lot of people out there that might not quite understand what hemp is. So I just want to ask you if you could go over in your own words, the difference between hemp and marijuana. How would you describe that?
Well, both plants are, I would say, people like to use the cousin term, their cousin. I like to say it's cannabis. They're just two different genetic makeups. Marijuana obviously has a high THC content, and with hemp, industrial hemp, we're talking about a breed that has a percentage of 0.03%. So not even 1% of THC in the plant, which would make it virtually impossible to get high. You would probably get lung infection before you even feel any side effects. You'd probably pass out. So you can't get high off industrial hemp. That's a very...
I heard you'd have to smoke a joint the size of a telephone pole.
Exactly. And at the same time, you'd be in the hospital with some lung problems. So I don't think that they're at all similar, but they are cannabis. So all I can say is one is for industrial purposes that would actually enable us to be able to create an industry, jobs, and also products and things that are in our everyday use, like plastics, housing, infrastructure, everything that has to do in our everyday life, we can substitute it with industrial hemp. So that's the real difference. We can't do that with marijuana, where marijuana is more of a medical and more of a recreational, more of a health alternative. whereas industrial hemp can also be used for health purposes, but we like to think about it as more of industrial purposes.
The way I kind of like to see it, the way I've said it before is marijuana is always cannabis, but cannabis is not always marijuana.
Exactly.
Sometimes cannabis is my t-shirt or my wallet or my wall or my table.
Or my hat. So that's exactly what it is. And I think that if we get out there, and I think within the last 5 to 6 years, a lot, thanks to Dave and the people that are out there in the street, the true activists that are out, creating these videos that are out on social media, that are doing the things that are necessary to get the movement going, to get the public outlook and their perspective to change on the negative stigma of cannabis. I think that's the real difference. I mean, the only way that we can make a difference is through these citizens initiatives, these true activist movements that Dave has created here in Arizona through Safe Arizona.
I didn't create it. I'm a peg in a wheel.
You're a facilitator
rolling along.
Yes, but I mean, it speaks to a number of things. It's really making the difference, and I think that with the education, people are starting to realize. Go to Google, look up industrial hemp, look at all the articles that are going on with it. You will be amazed. We're talking about hemp composite boards, hemp plastics. Go to Hempful Farms, like Dave said, huge sponsor of both initiatives, of all cannabis initiatives. I can't speak for them, about all of them, but I think that they would say that they
Hempful Farms has AZFMR and Hemp Our World initiative.
There you go. But go to Hempful Farms, and you will see they have some great products. They have hats, they have T-shirts. This is the industry that we can build in Arizona.
They've also got safer shirts like this made out of hemp.
Yes.
They're pretty awesome. Hemp clothing, it feels almost like a skin, almost, the way I would describe it. It's kind of an awesome comfort.
I agree, Dave.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dave Wisniewski with SaferArizona.com with a quick tutorial on how you can help us end cannabis prohibition in Arizona from your desktop, laptop, or your smartphone device. Check this out. What we're doing is we're trying to expand our broadcast footprint from our Facebook page, Safer Arizona Facebook page. It's facebook.com/SaferAZ. Now, what kind of helps a little bit is if you share our page on your feed. It does help a little bit, but to be honest, it does almost nothing to get more people to like your page and follow it. But what really helps, what is extremely effective, is if you go over here to the left, on the bottom where it says invite friends to like this page, you click that. And what it's going to do, it's going to populate an interface with all your friends, and you can go right down the list. Invite, invite, invite. Now, there is no invite all. You have to go one at a time, and it does take time. To be honest, I've spent days on this inviting lots of friends to lots of different pages, and if you see, they're all gray because I've invited all 4,000 of my friends, and sometimes if you have that many friends, it'll take you like an hour or two to do this all. But please, please do this. This is what helps the most. So what we're asking is to go to that invite friends to like page, click them all down the list, invite all of your friends, and then over here we're at the bottom right where it says send invite, you click that, it'll send the invites to your friend, and that simple little task expands our footprint and does so much more than just sharing it on Facebook. So yes, please share it on Facebook, that does help, but this is where the money's at. This is where we get the gold, in the invite page. So come on, help us out and expand the SaferArizona.com footprint and help us reach more people. The more people that know about us, the better chances we have to end cannabis prohibition in Arizona. Thank you.
Very loose fitting, and it's something that, talking about that stuff, most of those products had to been imported from out of our country. So
they gotta be, because growing any kind of hemp here, it's still a felony.
It's a felony.
I mean, that's the tragedy. I mean, it's a non-toxic medicinal flower bud that has no psychoactive effects, and it's got a plethora of health benefits. It saves people's lives, and just to grow it is a felony. You will go to jail for growing hemp. Why? Because that's kind of like marijuana. It's the same kind of, species in some sort of way. That's one of the reasons I was so, pushed to become an activist. When I was in the Army, Army, I was told to prosecute soldiers under Uniform Code of Military Justice for drinking purgatory vodka because purgatory vodka contained hemp seed oil. My sergeant major was like, well, hemp's related to marijuana, and that stuff's bad for you, so ruin a soldier's life over this stuff. And that's when I started Safe Arizona. I'm like, I can't sit here in good conscience, and work for these people and not, do my best to try to make positive change. And so Safe Arizona was born. But we need to, end the hemp prohibition, end the cannabis prohibition, stop putting people in prison. So you got some stuff coming up pretty soon. You're talking about an event that's, I think it's in October. You're trying to organize, or when's this? Let's talk about the event you were trying to organize.
Absolutely. What we want to do is, there's a lot of talk of a concert, many names, Hemp Fest, Hemp Stock.
Yeah, this name's been thrown around for a while.
There's been a lot of names. So what we want to do is we want to be able to create a unique event that is for the whole state of Arizona, meaning all legalization of cannabis, all efforts, bringing in big sponsors, big vendors, big investors to come in. And what we could do is, I've looked at this, and we could actually rent out the Tempe Beach Park. So it's very possible with a couple $1,000s, we could rent out the whole park. We could rent and block off Mill Avenue, which is a very high profile street here where people like to have fun, a great atmosphere for the young, not just young group, but all groups. So it's a great place. So what we want to do is create this event where we can really bring in a lot of funding for all efforts of all legalization.
And it's going to be a hemp kind of festival?
Well, we want to call it like Hemp Stock or Hemp Fest, but we want it to be a Arizona cannabis legalization festival. So it also leaves.
I would just call it Arizona Cannabis Legalization Festival.
That's what we should call it then. Exactly. And at the same time, while we're actually promoting this event, people can start taking, a part of the education, a part of the atmosphere, a part of the buzz, a part of the hype that we're trying to build here in Arizona. So we really want to be a model for other states that are trying to approach legalization and other efforts. We think, and our biggest thing, Dave, we talk about legalization for a lot of reasons, but for a lot of reasons, we should be talking about industrial hemp because we think it's going to save billions and billions of gallons of water over the next 10 years if we substitute a plan that would substitute industrial hemp for cotton. So that's really what we want to highlight at the same time as having fun, having these events and bringing in a lot of funding for all initiatives.
I like to talk about how it helps out with fuel. What is interesting to me is you'll find, industrial hemp history if you research the history of diesel fuel.
Yes.
The first diesel engine, I think it was Rudolph Diesel was the guy's name, had made the first diesel engine to run off biodiesel. Same with the Model T, was made to run off biodiesel, and hemp was one of those plants that has a lot of biomatter to make biodiesel fuel, and we could have been had a hemp-based economy instead of a crude oil-based economy. And in that context, what if we did? Henry Ford and Rudolph Diesel had hemp in mind. What if we had a hemp-based economy? Do you think we would go fighting wars over oil? I don't think we would.
No, Dave, we would not. And that's like the bottom line question is, why aren't we using this resource that we could grow in 3 months, opposed to using other resources that is, take like fracking to extract it out of the ground, or coal mining and stuff like that, which Arizona's big into. The 5 C's they like to call it, which is like copper, coal, cattle, citrus, and cotton. So we want to kind of change that. We want to put cannabis in there. We want to add the
Absolutely.
add the 6C, and that would allow, I think, a better atmosphere in the state. It would allow a lot of people to be free.
I would love a cannabis-filled atmosphere.
Yes.
I think that's what I have here.
Yes. So, Dave, like I said, we thank people tremendously. We thank them tremendously for the efforts that you're doing, like yourself, and highlighting Hempful Farms, highlighting hemp and cannabis altogether. The marijuana movement. It's something that's so important. And I was telling Dave earlier, 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, when the first marijuana program was initiated, we would have never thought this would be possible, and we would have never thought it would have been a reality that we're looking at.
Well, think it, because it's happening, and we are on our way.
Yes. So the question is, how can we do this? Right now, and what we want to do is put a clock on our website. So if you guys don't know, we have a new website we launched for just the purpose of this initiative. It's howarizona.org. Similar to Safer Arizona, but it's howarizona.org, HOW Arizona.org. And you can find all your information as well as where you can sign the initiative and how you can get involved. And what we want to do is we want to put a clock. So we know that every single time that, every day that goes by, every second that we're here, the clock is starting to tick and we need to get these signatures. We need to get this funding. And it's about what, Dave? About 9 months?
Yeah, it's July. We need all these signatures by, and the time is ticking. Even though it seems like, you know, it's a long enough time to have a baby, and it's 9 months away. Well, you know what? We have a lot of signatures to get, and we need to be out there every single day collecting signatures. You know, put out a schedule. Tell people where you're going to be at. Promote it. We're out here trying to get these signatures. We need to let our friends and family know that we're going to be out here, and we need to recruit our friends and family as volunteers too. You know, cannabis, hemp, it's not going to legalize itself, and we need your help to get it done. So you can find that information out, howarizona.org. Help them out. Help get signatures for the How Initiative. SaferArizona.com. You can sign up as a volunteer for the Arizonans for Mindful Regulation Initiative. Your information gets sent up to Jason Hine, Jason Madar, our campaign director and assistant director. So yeah, come on, help us get it done. We need volunteers to get these signatures. So one thing I also want to kind of go back and talk about, and I don't think a lot of people know, I think a lot of people should know, when I was working over at Hempful Farms, I had read on one of the tags of their hemp clothing that hemp clothing is medicinal and it helps with skin issues.
Yes.
Can you kind of elaborate on that and kind of fill people in? How is a clothing a medicinal t-shirt?
Absolutely, man. It's just amazing. I mean, we can go into different topics, but that's, you know, but like you said, biofuel. This one's an amazing topic about industrial hemp and just the cannabis plant itself. It actually, the cloth and the plant itself kills bacteria, kills infection. So it stops, like, you know, like let's say MRSA or different skin infections. It stops it from breeding in the actual fabric, and it kills the infection or the bacteria. So what we like to think about it is, you know, like you said, it's a medicinal fabric. It's something that we need to take a part of, and that we need to change the whole outlook of our whole planet just by substituting industrial hemp into our clothes. Which, if you look again, go to, you know, Google and see how much cotton does it take to grow a pair of jeans? How much cotton does it take to grow a t-shirt? How much water does it take for a pair of jeans? How much water does it take for a t-shirt? And you would be amazed. So we start substituting those fabrics like cotton for industrial hemp. Not only do we save water, but it's also medicinal fabric that we can get rid of skin infections and heal a lot of people with, Dave.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I would say hemp is the bee's knees. If it were a fish, it would be off the hook. If it were a picture, it would be off the wall.
Yes.
If it were a dog, it would be off the chain. Are you picking up what I'm laying down?
It is the miracle plant. It is the plant. So we need people. Go to Google. Go to Safer Arizona. We will have some information on Safer Arizona as well. We want to connect with all groups, all organizations, and we need to put all the effort together and unite. It just takes $1. Donate to Safer Arizona, $1. Donate to How Arizona, $1. Donate to whoever you think. Just make it happen. You know, we like to go out, and we go out in our economy. We spend $5 on a coffee all day, and you know, we can change, and it's not making a difference for us by doing that. We can make a difference. We can change things by just $1.
We can make a difference together. That's
Yes.
absolutely true.
Yes.
We got about a minute left here. Is there anything you kind of want to say to the viewers before we wrap this up?
No, I mean, the only thing I want to say really quick is just that, you know, we appreciate everything that everybody's out there doing. Keep doing what you're doing. Let's make Arizona the greatest state as far as cannabis legalization. Let's make it so that all newspapers all over the world are writing about it. Let's make it the biggest, most creative festival that we've ever had. So that's all we want to do. Thank you so much, everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you again for watching the Safer Dave Show at SaferArizona.com, Arizona's cannabis legalization activist webcasting network.
An important and heartwarming message from our sponsor, Hempful Farms Cafe and Shop, your one-stop shop for all things hemp at 14620 North Cave Creek Road, Phoenix, Arizona.
Our products were created to help heal on a more natural level. The CBD from hemp is non-psychoactive and contains no THC, which makes this legal to everybody in all 50 states. We have a wider variety market because we do offer human and pet products, and you do not have to have a medical marijuana card. To date, we have helped thousands of people with overall pain. We know there are millions of others that would benefit from our product. However, right now we are only in Arizona. We have numerous testimonies of how our CBD has helped so many people. An example is a cancer patient no longer willing to take chemotherapy said that if it wasn't for our product, she 1, wouldn't be alive, and 2, wouldn't be able to be the mother she needs to be to her 3 children. I started my career in the nursing field 15 years ago, and my husband is chef for 20 plus years. Together we have built ourselves up to a 4,000 square foot cafe and retail shop. Our retail CBD products are currently in 7 dispensaries in Arizona. If you're dealing with daily discomfort, it can take a toll on you physically and mentally. Our CBD from hemp products offer natural relief and is non-habit forming. And we like to say here, let us start your day the hempful way.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Safer Dave Show at SaferArizona.com, Arizona's cannabis legalization activist webcasting network, where we bring you the latest and greatest news in the Arizona cannabis legalization movement. I am here right now with nationally famous cannabis defense attorney Tom Dean. We all know who you are. You are Mr. Tom Dean. You have the nickname out in the streets. You called yourself Dismissal Dean, but I've heard people on the street say, "Yo, that's Dismiss Dean." What do you got to say to that?
Yeah, well, I didn't come up with Dismissal Dean. That was actually a judge up in Flagstaff back in the 90s, Judge Flournoy, who basically was apparently impressed enough with the number of cases I was getting thrown out, mostly on constitutional violations like Fourth Amendment searches, that sort of thing, that one day I came in and he just proclaimed as I walked through the courthouse doors, "Dismissal Dean!" and just kind of stuck. And a lot of people, that I know even from back then will call me Dismissal. Yeah, I have heard the Dismiss Dean too, though. That's out there.
So what you're saying is you kind of go around finding holes of justice in the fields of corruption that is our judicial system.
Well, I look at it more like I'm plugging the holes up that the government already created. The government has put holes in our constitutional rights, has put holes in our statutory rights by misinterpretation and by police misconduct. And so I look at it more like what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to plug those holes so those abuses are no longer ongoing.
Well, we need more attorneys like you, Mr. Tom Dean, and we are here to talk about some big holes that are affecting a lot of Arizona citizens here in Arizona. It is the 25-mile rule. Now, up until just about 25 minutes ago, I walked into this place thinking, yeah, we have the 25-mile rule. I believed if we live within 25 miles of a medical marijuana dispensary, then we do not have the right to cultivate cannabis for our medicine, and you're trying to tell me otherwise?
I am. I think that just the simple fact that the 25-mile rule is a phrase that we throw around, even in the medical marijuana community, is proof positive that the government has successfully, in effect, brainwashed the public, including activists, into believing that this 25-mile rule exists, when, in point of fact, it was something that was wholly manufactured and fabricated by the Department of Health Services.
Well, when you got, riot teams coming in on your bedroom, it's kind of hard not to believe that the 25-mile law exists. I mean, how do we combat this kind of thing?
Well, it is. I mean, through repetition, I believe that by constantly talking about the 25-mile rule, by denying patients the right to cultivate, the authorization to cultivate because of the 25-mile rule, prosecuting people for violating the 25-mile rule over and over and over again. The last 5 years, what's happened is that the government has, in effect, established a status quo interpretation. And this isn't the first time that's happened. It can take decades to finally wake up to the truth. And we talked about the example of DUI, cannabis DUIs. For decades, prosecutors were putting people in jail for DUI where there was no impairment, simply based on a person having inactive THC metabolites in their system, which could be detected up to 30 days. And I can remember going back, to the 90s, early 90s, when I first started practicing, defending people are trying to, but with they'd consumed marijuana a month earlier. And it didn't appear that there's any defense because there's a valid test showing the presence of inactive metabolites. And this went on for decades. Finally, just a couple years ago, our Arizona Supreme Court examined the issue. An attorney somehow was able to kind of wake up to the fact that, hey, wait a second, why are we all assuming that it's okay to prosecute people for having inactive metabolites in their system? And sure enough, the Supreme Court agreed and said, yeah, that's absurd. Of course you can't do that. And yet for decades, that's exactly what was happening. This is a situation like that, where I think they're trying to establish that status quo, that this 25-mile rule exists, to the point where you even have other lawyers who have challenged the 25-mile rule, claiming that it's unconstitutional because of the certain state constitutional provisions, or even fellow activists who have challenged the 25-mile rule, arguing that it's unconstitutional in violation of the Equal Protection Clause. But what this all has in common is we're starting off believing that a 25-mile rule exists that we then have to challenge. But what I'm saying is there is no such thing. And if you look to the statutes in question, you start off with the ARS, Arizona Revised Statute, 36-2801, which is a definition section for the Medical Marijuana Act. The first definition is allowable amount of marijuana, and it says that with respect to a qualifying patient, the allowable amount of marijuana means, first of all, as we all know, 2.5 ounces of usable marijuana. But then secondly, if the qualifying patient's registry identification card states that the qualifying patient is authorized to cultivate 12 plants contained in an enclosed lot facility. So we start off with that. It appears, hey, if you get authorization to cultivate, you're allowed to do so. Then the government looked at ARS 36-2804.02, subsection B3F, subsection A3F, for anyone that wants to read along. You'll see that it says that a qualifying patient may apply to the department for a card and with an application including the following information. You drop down to subsection F, a designation as to who will be allowed to cultivate marijuana plants for the qualifying patient's medical use if a registered nonprofit medical marijuana dispensary is not operating within 25 miles of the patient's home. So, quite plainly, this in no way restricts patients from being authorized to cultivate. All it does is it confers the additional benefit that if the person lives more than 25 miles away from a dispensary, they don't have to grow it themselves. They can have another person designated to grow it for them.
So I see with the argument you're trying to put forth, the 25-mile rule seems like it would be more of like an assumption. They're just assuming because it says one thing that it may mean something different, but only to fit their needs. It's not actually, saying that we have to be arrested, jailed, ramrod, flashbang because we have growing within 25 miles of a dispensary. It's saying we have the additional right to get an additional caregiver. Is that what it's saying?
Yeah, and here's why. Here's how that makes sense. Because when you have people within the 25-mile rule, the Medical Marijuana Act allows them, and again, this is what the Medical Marijuana Act says. This is not the government's opinion, so I'm not advising anyone to go out there and just start growing marijuana without authorization, because you will end up getting raided and you will end up being prosecuted. But what I'm saying is we need to, through the proper legal channels, establish that there is no 25-mile rule. And the reason this makes sense is because if you live within 25 miles of a dispensary, you're allowed to, this law says that you're allowed to grow marijuana yourself, and you can also, of course, go and buy marijuana from a dispensary if you don't have a green thumb and you'd rather just go buy it. But when you live farther than 25 miles from a dispensary, this provision recognizes that it's not reasonable to say, well, you have to drive all that distance to go to a dispensary if you don't want to grow your own. So it's saying, if you would like, instead of growing it yourself, you can have someone designated to grow it for you so that you have that alternative. You don't have to grow it yourself. And because there's no dispensaries nearby for an alternative, that you can have someone else do it for you. But the statute in no way, and you can see it just reading it, this isn't even a confusing statute. It's pretty straightforward. It in no way would take away anyone's authorization to cultivate. Everybody's authorized to cultivate. Everyone should be authorized to cultivate under the Medical Marijuana Act.
That sounds like, mind-blowing information, and it's something that's not going around the waves in the Arizona cannabis legalization movement or even in the dispensaries. We're all under the impression the 25-mile rule is law, and we're sitting here looking at this and saying, no, it is not the case. And so we need to let our friends, let our families know that there's ways we can push against this and push against the status quo. What's going on here is they're pushing the wrong way so hard and so long that everyone thinks it's normal. But it's not the right way. It's not normal. And, I got a question for you, Tom. So you were sitting here, we're broadcasting here on SaferArizona.com and on Facebook and other social media platforms. People are listening. Now we're all like awake. And I believe you. I hope others believe you that the 25-mile rule is not a real thing. What can we do as a mass group of citizens to push back against this, to help bring the awareness out and, end this whole illusion of the 25-mile rule?
Yeah, well, I think that's definitely education, like what we're doing right now. We're speaking to the cannabis community as a whole. It's important that they understand that their rights are being taken away from them wrongfully by the department. And it's basically an abuse of departmental rulemaking ability. It's an abuse of that power. Just like when the department, you might remember early on, passed regulations saying that in order for someone to apply for a dispensary, among other things, they had to be current on their taxes and current on their child support. Well, someone challenged that statute and the court agreed and said, yeah, that's an abuse of the agency rulemaking power. There's nothing in the Medical Marijuana Act that would justify you imposing those types of restrictions, and therefore the rule is invalid. And the same thing is here. There's no authority in the Medical Marijuana Act which would give the department the power to deny the authorization to cultivate. And so they've abused their rulemaking power here by creating this 25-mile rule. Now, everyone needs to be aware of that, but the way that it needs to be challenged, though, is because I don't think that we're going to prevail against the government politically and say, government, you're wrong, there should be no 25-mile rule, and then they look at it and they go, okay, cannabis community, you're right, sorry, we messed up, and never mind, and everybody can grow. I think they're going to have to be forced to accept that, and that, to me, is going to be decided in the courts. And it starts with someone applying to the department for authorization to cultivate who lives within 25 miles of a dispensary. That request to cultivate will be denied, and then that person can then appeal that decision. And if the department doesn't agree with it, which we know they won't, we then appeal it to the Superior Court, the Maricopa County Superior Court. If that judge then also agrees with that, if that court upholds the department's decision, then we have another right to appeal directly to the Arizona Court of Appeals, where we can have a second opportunity to make our argument. And in my view, so we need the community to get behind this case when it happens, and provide the political will so that when the courts get this decision, it's not just some loner out there making some novel argument about the 25-mile, so-called 25-mile rule, but it's an entire community of voters, medical marijuana patients who are standing behind this person. And just like with court support, that gives us a tremendous amount of leverage. It gives the judges more confidence in making the right decision, and takes away a lot of what usually is sort of the government's power to sort of have the political leverage that they usually do. So I think that it's both. It's a good legal case, and it's the involvement of the community as a whole that will ultimately win this issue.
Well, that is a lot of great information, and this is a tragedy going on here, this 25-mile illusion. People are getting their doors kicked in, they're getting their houses robbed by the police, they're getting their dogs beaten, their children held at gunpoint, they're getting their kids taken away. The war is real, and it's happening now, it's happening every single day. And so we have these outlets of ways we can be pushing against this, and the way to push against this is to be political at this point in time. We need to be collecting signatures. We need to be pushing back at the court cases, fighting these court cases, you know, making big scenes about them, letting people know that there's an injustice going on. And so this is another one of those things. So apparently the 25-mile rule is not what we thought it was, and we're all just going along with the status quo. We need to be, you know, talking about this with our friends and family. Whenever it's brought up, when we go to court, we need to be questioning it all the time. And I know there's a lot of people out there who've been caught up in these, you know, tragic arrests and horrible situations, and they need an experienced cannabis attorney who's you know, been around, you know, getting people the justice they deserve. And I understand that you got a pretty awesome name in the industry, Dismissal Dean or Dismissed Dean, but you know, if people want to get a hold of you, what's a good avenue for them to go reach out and get some assistance for legal matters?
Sure, absolutely. I'm here to help. You can reach me through my website, attorneyforcannabis.com. You can email me through that website, the letter of my first name, Tom, T Dean, D-E-A-N, T Dean at attorneyforcannabis.com, T Dean at attorneyforcannabis.com. You can call me at my office, 602-635-4990, and I'm ready to help anybody who's been victimized by these draconian cannabis laws.
They are draconian, and I'm going to be staring at this website for a while, talking about the 25-mile rule, because, you know, I was in the Army when the medical marijuana law was passed. I got back. It was already, you know, implemented for a few years. I didn't even know what dabbing was when I got back out of the Army, and everyone was talking about the 25-mile law. I just assumed that it was what it was because it was talked about as if it was the status quo, as you so put. My only thing is, you know, if anybody's out there and they, you know, disagree, go ahead and check out this this website. We're putting it up right here. It's azledge.gov. And we are going to have it here in the lower thirds. If you want to go and check it out and you have a different opinion, please send us an email. You could send an email to tdean at attorneyforcannabis.com or saferarizonadave@gmail.com. Let us know what you think about the 25-mile law. Again, thanks for tuning in. This was the Safer Dave Show at saferarizona.com. Thanks again for being my guest, Tom Dean.
Absolutely. Glad to be here. Just trying to wake up cannabis consumers one at a time.
And till next time, this was the Safer Dave Show at saferarizona.com. Thank you.